Welcome to Medically Assisted CBD with Charlie Pimarini. Hi, and welcome back to Medically Assisted CBD with Charlie Pimarini. We have a very special guest today, someone that is very friendly to our company, very friendly to me. I used to work for her out of my first year of PA school. She is one of my mentors, Dr. Jyoti Patel. She is fellowship trained in integrative medicine through the University of Arizona. She is also double boarded integrative internal medicine and pediatrics, and has gone through the Cleveland Clinic functional medicine program. Welcome to the program, Dr. Patel.
Thank you so much for having me, Charlie. I'm honored to be here.
Yeah, and you and I have been just going back and forth about CBD and how it relates integrative medicine and functional medicine, which you are well knowledgeable in those areas. And just want to start off with and talk to you about how did you kind of become aware of CBD and the endocannabinoid system, and what's your journey been like, kind of coming to this arena.
So it's very interesting. Again, as a traditional physician, a conventional physician, we're really not taught any of this in medical school. In medical school, we are taught to recognize symptoms, make a diagnosis, and then make a prescription or do a surgical procedure. So there's really a very limited scope for traditional physicians to learn about the endocannabinoid system, much less anything that is in the realm of integrative and functional medicine. So it is something that the physicians that seek this have to go outside of the traditional model of medicine. My journey started several years ago when another colleague introduced me to integrative medicine, and she was currently going through the fellowship. And through her and all the information she was sharing with me, I was amazed at how much I didn't know. And I was humbled by the body's natural ability to itself. And I was amazed that in medicine, we're not taught this. In medicine, we're not given this information to help our patients. So that got me on a journey to seek more information and more knowledge so I can empower my patients with this information so they can reverse chronic disease. And we can find out what the root cause of what their symptoms are all about. And not just find out what the root cause is, but then reverse chronic disease and prevent further damage to their systems. And that's where functional medicine came in. And functional medicine is a study of root cause medicine. It allows us to look at systems biology to try to investigate where the systems have fallen apart or where the dysfunction is happening. And so bringing it back to the ECS, the endocannabinoid system, what's really interesting about this is that it's a network of receptors and enzymes throughout the whole body. And it has, the ability to regulate so many things: pain sensations, appetite, memory, mood, so many factors. So one of the things I teach my patients is the gut. The gut is the seat of all health. And we know this from the time of Hippocrates. All diseases begin in the gut. Mm-hmm. And when we look at the ECS system or the endocannabinoid system, there's an intricate network of nervous connections, neurons, receptors, and neurotransmitters in the gut. And it plays a critical role, not just in digestion, but in detoxification, in mood, in weight management, in metabolism, in detoxification, in inflammation, and communication with the brain. So isn't that fascinating, Charlie? How do we not learn that in medicine?
And that you've heard me preach, and me and you've had talks about this, and man, I'm just glad that I found my way to you. My first year out of school, you really instilled in me, root cause, whole patient approach, integrative medicine, functional medicine, and it just when I fell into the CBD stuff and the endocannabinoid stuff, and me and you started talking, it's amazing that these subjects are just, they're not even taught, right? I mean, how many years of school have you been in, and they don't mention endocannabinoid system in any of these things. And it's just, it's incredible about how, putting this together, the endocannabinoid system, our master computer, is just interlinking all of these systems together, right? And it's just crazy that we are left void of this in our extensive knowledge, and we have to kind of find these things out on our own and rely on colleagues or published paper to kind of, get our education levels up to where they should be.
Yeah,
Uh,
for sure, for sure. And I think that it's happening, but it's trickling down very slowly. And,
mhm,
I think the physicians, healthcare providers have to take the lead, because if they rely on the system to bring this information to them, they're not going to be happy because, the system is designed for pharmaceutical companies and profit, not
mhm,
necessarily looking at things like the ECS system where there may be less profit to be had in the
mhm.
medical world. So let's get into it. So, the thing
Yeah.
that fascinates me about the ECS is that most people don't realize this, but the gut and the brain talk to each other.
Mhm,
And we call that the first and second brain. The first brain is obviously your brain and your spinal cord, and your second brain is the enteric nervous system, which is this network of neurons in your belly. And the two communicate with each other. And the fascinating thing is that the middleman, the communication link between the gut and the brain, seems to be the endocannabinoid and cannabinoid system. So the ECS is actually allowing the brain and the gut to speak to each other. Now, why is this so important? Because when the brain perceives threat, it has to tell the gut. And when the gut sees something coming through that is potentially threatening to the body, the gut has to tell the brain. So there's this bidirectional communication.
mhm,
So, such an important part of our network is to keep this ECS system stable. And when we have a endocannabinoid system that is not functioning properly, that is deficient, that is decreased in function, then we start to manifest these diseases. We might start to see gut diseases like irritable bowel syndrome, inflammatory bowel disease.
mhm,
We might start to see obesity. We might start to see gut dysbiosis. And when the ECS system is not working, we might even start to see brain diseases or mood disorders like anxiety, depression, insomnia, and even schizophrenia.
mhm.
So, finding that the system has such a critical role in our mental and physical well being, it's important for us to be able to regulate the system. So, dysregulation of the ECS may play a role in a lot of intestinal disorders and mood disorders. Isn't that fascinating?
I mean, it's fascinating because it's fascinating on so many levels that we weren't taught about this, and that the newest research is emerging is literally if we balance our gut, we're going to balance our overall health, right? And
Hmm.
um, the statistic that I've read, and that I think you may have shared with me, is don't we have more serotonin receptors in our gut than our brain? Is that true?
Yes, absolutely. So, like 90% of your serotonin is produced in the gut, and 50% of your dopamine is produced in your gut. And here's the other fascinating thing is it's made in cohort with your gut microbiome. So one of the
Mm,
things I
okay.
talk to patients about all the time is the important role of the gut microbiome. So for those that are listening that don't know what the gut microbiome is, it's trillions of organisms that live in our gastrointestinal tract. These are bacteria, parasites, viruses. They all live in harmony, like a tropical rainforest, all doing their own business every day, supporting your system, helping us with detoxification, vitamin production, pathogens, hormonal regulation, communication with the brain, production of neurotransmitters. So these microorganisms play a critical role in our overall well-being, and they also produce majority of the serotonin and dopamine that our body needs. They also play a role with the ECS system. So the endocannabinoid system is also communicating with our gut microbiome. Isn't that fascinating as well? So everything talks to each other. We cannot
Hmm.
silo our bodies. In traditional medicine, we silo our gut from our heart, from our lungs, from our brain. We work on these organs independently, like they live on their own. But in fact, all the organs talk to each other and work with each other, and they have a pathway, a network of communication. So paying attention to that communication network is part of health. And knowing when that communication network needs to be supported, just like our interstates, just like a roadway, we need to keep these stable, these roadways in our bodies stable, because that's how our cells communicate with each other. And when there's a breakdown of these interstates and highways, then it causes disruption in the entire body. And then
Yeah.
that downstream causes us to have symptoms. And then we, as traditional conventional doctors, give it a name. and then have a pharmaceutical remedy. So let's talk a little bit about how we can actually go upstream and
Hmm.
fix the ECS system, right? So if you
Yeah.
have a dysfunctional endocannabinoid system, how do you get that back on track? Well, go ahead.
No, no, I just wanted, yeah, I mean, you're perfect. You're 100% right in the fact of the one big thing that the endocannabinoid system is, it's efferent and efferent. So it's taking in signals and sending signals out. So it is a perfect hub of interconnectability between the brain and the gut. And I think a lot of people that are new to the endocannabinoid system and CBD, I need to really realize that this system is taking in information and also sending it back out, which really just plays such a huge role in our overall health. So, um,
Yeah, for sure. And in the gut itself, it does three major things. It modulates inflammation, it regulates digestion, and it communicates with the brain. So if people are
mhm,
suffering from inflammatory conditions such as autoimmune diseases or arthritis or brain inflammation such as Alzheimer's, dementia, Parkinson's, or they have other types of inflammatory conditions like cardiovascular disease or diabetes, remember that this ECS system plays a role at the level of inflammation in the gut. Also,
mhm,
if you have digestive issues, you have malabsorption of nutrients, you have gastrointestinal disorders such as inflammatory bowel disease or Crohn's disease, or even diverticulitis, inflammatory conditions of the gut, that also may be regulated by the ECS. And then lastly, of course, we just talked about the brain. So if you have any mood disorders, anxiety, depression, insomnia, some role here is played by the ECS.
yeah.
So supporting the ECS in a healthy gut is super, super important.
Yeah, and what we don't do, and what they termed our, typical Western lifestyle and diet, is literally the exact opposite. We don't sleep enough. We get bad sleep. We eat bad foods. We drink alcohol, and we have stressful jobs. And so, just kind of leading down that path, what are the things that you like to do from an integrative approach to really help balance the ECS, which ultimately balances the gut health?
So good, so good, so good. So, integrative medicine and functional medicine, the foundation of those practices is to support the gut through nutrition. So,
Mhm,
diet and lifestyle factors that promote the health of the ECS and the body can help. So, I always recommend when it comes to nutrition to eat foods that are whole, plant based, natural as much as possible, close to the earth as much as possible, true in its
mhm,
real form, and avoiding pesticides, preservatives, colors, dyes, fillers, binders, and processing kind, because as that food moves further and further away from its true form, it's modified and can actually cause more inflammation in the gut. There are certain foods that actually have natural cannabinoids in them. And so, adding these foods to your diet, fatty fish, seeds, nuts can help with essential fats that can support the system. You can even consume cruciferous vegetables such as cauliflower, broccoli, and cabbage. They do make a compound called indole 3 carbinol, and that can also act on the CBD2 receptors. You and I earlier talked about some herbs and spices such as black pepper, clove, cinnamon, oregano,
mhm,
basil, even lavender, and you had mentioned lemon and rosemary can also have natural cannabinoids in them. So increasing your spices, increasing your herbs, increasing your plant-based vegetables, increasing good sources of good fats can support the ECS system. You mentioned stress, huge factor, and it's bidirectional, by the way. So if you have a lot of chronic stress, it's going to suppress your ECS system. And if you have a suppressed ECS system, you're going to have more stress because, again, the production of serotonin and dopamine in the gut are affected. So, modulating stress, and I'm a big fan of mind body work. So, I encourage my patients to wake up every morning and take 5 deep breaths, placing their hand over their heart
yeah,
and wishing themselves a good morning
mhm,
and maybe 15 to 30 minutes of meditation, whether it's walking meditation in nature or sitting practices or body scans or five senses, getting connected to their environment, getting connected to where they are right here right now, finding gratitude. All of those things have been shown. Now, this is not just me, this is science. Scientific data has shown that a regular practice of gratitude or a regular practice of meditation has tremendous health benefits in reducing stress, but also other inflammatory conditions. So regulating stress is also part of my prescription. Exercise and sleep, of course, mitigate stress. So if you are moving more, that's going to help you release natural endorphins, can support the sleeping, and lowering your cortisol levels can also help you with that, as well as your ECS
Hmm.
system. You can take supplements. Again, I'm not opposed to that. That is part of my practice when I see patients, is giving them recommendations for well vetted supplements. But eating fermented food, sauerkraut, kimchi, kombucha, sourdough bread, fermented apple cider vinegar, fermented vegetables, yogurt, kefir, these food items have natural bacteria in them, probiotics, to help support the gut. And then prebiotic food, whether it's asparagus or cabbage or carrots, garlic, and ginger, things that help feed the gut microbiome, can also help support the ECS system by supporting the microbiome. So we can
Yeah, I
go
mean,
on and on, but lifestyle plays
yeah.
a huge role in supporting the ECS system.
Yeah, people don't realize we're more bacterial DNA than we are human DNA, right? And
Absolutely. 10
between our
times.
s- yeah, between our skin and between our gut, so these little buggers down there are really just controlling everything, and that's why um, I think when me and you were practicing together, one of our patients had a fecal transplant because she had, uh, she had
C.
untreatable C.
diff.
diff, right?
Yeah.
And she got
hmm
the microbiome of somebody that was a
24-year-old
athlete.
bodybuilder.
Yeah, and it really changed. You remember? And it changed
Yes.
her whole livelihood. It changed everything.
It changed the affect and her approach, and her husband even noticed a change in her behavior.
Hmm.
So it's such a tremendous testimonial to the idea that the gut microbiome has so much to do with our mental well-being. And there's actually studies. Arizona State University here in Tempe, Arizona, did a large, was internationally seen in patients with autism and
Hmm.
doing fecal transplants. They're also doing some research on patients with Parkinson's and fecal transplants. So just an interesting scientific approach to treating these chronic diseases that we forever were just giving medications for, but now
Correct.
looking at root cause and reversing maybe that dysfunction in the gut.
Yeah, and I mean the whole paradigm is shifting in medicine. I think a lot of people, doctors in your situation that are double board certified, are going back to learn all this integrative approaches, all the functional medicine approaches, all these things that we weren't taught in regular medical school about, what is the root cause, what is the gut bacteria, how do you supplement it with maybe some type of supplements which are supplemental to your normal diet, right? They're not the end all be all. But I just think the interaction between the gut and the endocannabinoid system needs to be stressed more, and the gut and overall health needs to be stressed more. And I've definitely learned so much from you over the years of just overall health. Overall health starts in the gut, 100%.
Yeah, and
Um,
like I said earlier, I'm a fan of supplements because
mhm,
sometimes there's a deficiency and the patient cannot see themselves out of that hole. There are
mhm,
people looking down into the hole saying, just climb out of it. And
mhm.
they're so far down the hole, they can't get themselves out of it.
Yeah.
And so the support that we give them with supplements, whether they're nutritional supplements or CBD supplements, they're to help support their systems and then work with them to walk back some of the dysfunction through lifestyle changes, through motivation, through information and knowledge, and through this and supportive through nutrition and lifestyle changes. But they can't get to that if they're already 10 feet below the surface. They can't
Yeah.
see themselves out of it. So supporting their nutritional status, and I do a micronutrient test to see what they might be deficient in vitamins and minerals, and then give them a prescription that is customized. And I look for vetted quality supplements to help them
Mhm.
replace what is only needed. And then in the same way, you and I have talked about people that have a ECS dysfunction and maybe low or deficient in endocannabinoids, and how do we support their system so that they can then also see themselves, and while we're doing that support with supplements, also support their lifestyle, because you cannot supplement away a bad lifestyle.
Mhm. Yeah. And I think that that feeds into the micronutrient testing. I've been doing that at my clinic, especially under, from learning from what I learned from you. And what I'm learning is specifically in the endocannabinoid system is kind of reminiscent of when we do the micronutrient testing and we get specific profiles for our patients and we give them a specific supplement regimen. It's the same thing for endocannabinoid system dysfunction and supplementing with exogenous endocannabinoids. Nobody's endocannabinoid system is going to respond the same way from person A to person B. Taking one oil for one person may be too much for the other person, and
Hmm.
everybody is so different. And I just think it all just starts with learning about this system from a medical standpoint and learning how we can actually supplement naturally, right, with some of the foods and some of the techniques that you were talking about, and then also then adding on exogenous CBD or THC products, just in conjunction.
Yeah.
One, not one, but both of them.
So absolutely right. Lifestyle always number one. Changes in nutrition and lifestyle always number one. And then trying to figure out if there's any other root causes for their dysfunction, whether it's hormonal imbalances, whether it's gut dysbiosis, whether it's toxins in the system. I look for those as well. So if there are any other points of interest, I always tell people most of my patients are standing on 10 thumbtacks. And if I only work on removing one of them, they're still standing on 9 thumbtacks. So
Hmm.
looking at the patient from, a 30,000-foot view and and all the elements, how their mind body balance is, who do they live with, the relationships that they have, the stress that they have, their exercise habits, their sleep habits, their nutritional habits, what purpose do they have in life, what connects them spiritually. So when we in functional and integrative medicine look at the patient, we look at them as a whole. And so, yes, that always comes first. And then supplements is just one tool in our tool belt to help guide the patient in the right direction and give them the support until we're able to kind of work backwards through all the other elements that I mentioned.
Yeah, I mean that's why we can't harp on this enough. The patient is not just somebody that just has hypertension or has anxiety. They're either genetic or underlying, socioeconomic factors. There's, the diet, their exercise, or lack of, either. And so just taking this holistic approach through your integrative and your functional medicine, and now you're adding on, the endocannabinoid system that you're looking through, and me and you working together with supplements and these type of things are
Yeah.
just really bringing stuff to a different level, and giving patients just another way to get healthy and heal themselves.
Absolutely. And so bringing that up, there are a few things that I always discuss with my patients when it comes to supplementation, whether it's CBD oil or any other supplement. And
Hmm.
first of all, is that they're still considered a medical tool. So just like a prescription medication, you always want to be informed as to who's prescribing it and where you're getting it from. What are the potential side effects? What are the interactions? What are some of the legal consequences or implications of taking a product like CBD?
Hmm.
And are there any regulations or testings that you want to be aware of when it comes to dispensing your product? So there are some basic things that I cover with my patients. I also cover the fact that we're very early on in this particular drug. In
Hmm.
terms of research, there's plenty of animal studies to support the use in humans. We have some research to show that it helps with childhood seizures. There's some ongoing trials for pain. Definitely, there's some reports with stress and anxiety and mood
Hmm.
disorders. But there's still some work to be done when it comes to research and use of CBD on a medical level.
Yeah, and that's the same exact discussion I have with my patients, and talking about where are you getting your product from? Is it from a gas station? Are you going to be
Right.
getting Are you getting your hypertension medication from a gas station also? And if you are, maybe we have other issues to talk about. Um, but you have the same conversations that I do about the CBD. It's not a cure all. We don't really, we're still just learning about all of these things. The endocannabinoid system was only discovered in the early 90s, 1980s. I mean, it's relatively new comparatively to the nervous system, the heart and the brain. So, yeah, I think just caution with CBD products. When I talk to my patients is, are you on a blood thinner? Automatically, before you start any CBD products, you need to be talking to your cardiologist, who's ever managing your INR, because CBD is not a life-sustaining medication, but your blood thinner is. And so, I'm not messing around with your gut bacteria, which is ultimately going to mess around with how you're digesting warfarin. So now we're giving you a CBD product that could potentially throw off your INR. So, these are conversations that these patients, I think they're starting to seek them out from medical professionals, but, they're going to a lot of their doctors, and their doctors are saying, I don't know what it is. You just don't take it. I don't know what it is. So we're missing in the medical profession, we're missing
Mhm.
a lot of people that we could be making some really, really positive changes with. But I think slowly, physicians such as yourself that are kind of coming around and really integrating this into their practice, I think it's becoming more and more than it is less and less.
Yeah, and that's why I respect the work that you do, Charlie, because
Thank you.
when I have, yeah, you're very educated in CBD oil, you're immersed in the research that's going on, and you're connected into the network of people that are doing some good work. You're fair and balanced when it comes to the information that's out there. You're a medical professional. So when I have patients that I feel would benefit from CBD oil because I trust you, I
Hmm.
do send my patients to restorative care just so that they can get that full in-depth consultation with you. And I do
Yeah.
appreciate that. I appreciate the service that you do for physicians like myself that may not have the bandwidth to do everything
Hmm.
that you do.
Yeah, I appreciate you sending me and sending me the patients and trusting me with their care. It's but medicine's a team. It's a team approach, and just like your body's a team approach. So no system is without each other. So I appreciate you trusting me with your patients. Before we go, is there any other thing you'd like to add?
I think that in general, if people have questions about CBD oil, my advice to them would be this. First of all, always get medical professional opinion. Always talk to your doctor about any supplement that you take, whether it's CBD or anything else. Know that all supplements are not made equal. So you always want to make sure you're checking for safety and independent lab or company for their purity and their quality and concentration. So know that that is really important since there are so many products on the market. Um, and know about the legal consequences in your state or with your job. For sure, it's really important to be educated for yourself. I empower my patients with knowledge so that they can take back control of their health. And I
Hmm.
would love everyone that's listening today to take that as their mission, to be their own advocate and to be their own information gatherer, and to use people like you and I that might have the knowledge to increase their own knowledge base and see whether it's right for them. Because we are super individualistic when it comes to our systems and our needs. And what may work for your cousin, your aunt, may not work for you. So I encourage my patients and any listeners here now to really take ownership of their own health. And
Yeah.
thank you so much for having me today, by the way.
No, thanks for jumping on. How, if people want any integrative or fellowship consultations or, talk to you about any of your services, how do they best get in contact
Yeah.
with you?
So I am active on social media, and they can follow me on
Hmm.
my Facebook page, which is Jyoti Patel MD, JYOTIPATEL MD. They can also follow me on Instagram, which is J Patel MD. And of course, my website is my practice website, which is aimsforwellness.com. And I've sent you a couple of links for some articles on the gut brain axis and the ECS system.
Hmm.
Maybe we can add them to the show notes with some of the contact information for your listeners.
Oh yeah, for sure have it on the YouTube channel, and when we post it, we'll put it into the notes on the
Perfect.
podcast. Dr. Patel is one of the smartest and most kindest doctors that I've ever met, and anyone that is treated by her is for sure lucky. And we thank you for taking the time out of your day, your busy day, to be on the show with us.
Thank you, Charlie.
Thank you. Have a great day.